So when we got there, initially the first half hour, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, was boring. So they were doing EVPs, which made no sense to me. It was right next to the Philadelphia airport, very noisy, and they're trying to do an EVP, and it's like, well, this is boring. Nothing is happening. Well, then somebody put on a flashlight. One of those twist flashlights, somebody put that out, and they were asking questions, and the flashlight was going on and off by command. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but it's not my flashlight. So I put up my twist flashlight and it did the same things. I was like, oh, that's curious. There's something here. Then I felt somebody sitting next to me that I could not physically see. I just felt somebody sat next to me. Then I just felt this overwhelming sense of dread.
Welcome to another episode of Paranormal Among Us. On today's episode, we are going to be joined by spiritual healer Baba Sam Shelley. He's going to talk to us about his very inspirational journey that all started with a ghost hunt. But before we get to Baba Sam, if you have any stories that you would like to share, please email me at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. That's paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. And I can either read the story on a future episode, or if you would like, to come on and you can be a guest on the show. Okay, right now we're going to go to the Boomcaster hotline and welcome Baba Sam Shelley. Baba Sam, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Paul. Great to be here with you today.
If I show the outtakes, it'll just embarrass me, so I'm just going to let the guy, I got tongue twisted on Sam. So, Baba Sam, you have a great story about how ghost hunting has kind of saved your life. It's very interesting. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. Go ahead and share with us kind of what led up to this, your illnesses and stuff.
Yeah, because it really, ghost hunting did make a huge difference in my life. So at this point in my life, I was in my mid-40s, and I was pretty much a couch potato because in my life I was diagnosed with bipolar. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis where I lost the ability to walk. I had psoriatic arthritis in my joints. So it was actually in my feet. So it made it even more difficult to walk. Then psoriasis on a third of my body. I had chronic migraines. I had psoriasis. Like I had all these ailments. And I always figured that this was my lot in life. They're incurable. This is what I'm going to be stuck with, if you will. There's all these diseases. So I was a couch potato. I used to watch a lot of TV, and I used to watch Ghost Hunters and some other shows, but I know it was TV. I didn't know if it was real or fake. I thought it was just entertainment. And I was pretty much watching anything and everything because that was my life. Go to work, go to do the day job, and come home and crash on the sofa. That was my life, and all these medications and needing a cane and all this stuff. So I was watching this, and I saw a tweet from Chris Williams saying, hey, we're having this ghost hunt in Philadelphia at Fort Mifflin. I was like, oh, okay, I can probably go to that. It's in the summer, but I can figure it out. At that point with MS, in the summertime, I had to wear a cooling vest because anything above 70 degrees, my body would shut down. So I had this cooling vest on with ice packs, and that would last for about an hour, hour and a half. So I signed up for the event. I got down there to Fort Mifflin. And I did my research beforehand because I knew I only had an hour, hour and a half. So I researched Fort Mifflin and Philadelphia. Okay, what are the most active areas? If I'm going to experience something, where's the most activity? So I saw it was the casemates. The casemates are where they house the prisoners from the Civil War. And there's a lot of activity in that area. So we got to the casemates.
Can I ask a quick question here? At this time in your life, when you're doing this ghost hunt, how is your ability to walk? I mean, are you able to walk for a long period of time? Because I know MS kind of robbed you of that ability.
No, at this time I had my cooling vest on and I had my cane. So I was getting around with a cane. So when I went to the ghost hunt, it was quite the adventure to get to the casemates because it's a little narrow, a little difficult, and kind of dark. So it was a little bit of challenge, but I did get to the casemates, and I just sat on a bench. It was like these old beds that I just sat on with no mattress, just a piece of plywood. I just sat on that. And so we got to the casemates. Well, of course, when I got to Fort Mifflin, I knew exactly where I wanted to go. It didn't matter what group I was going to. It was like, we're going to the casemates because I got an hour at most, maybe a little more, but that's it. We're going to the casemates.
Right.
So it was Chris Williams groups going into the casemates. So when we got there, initially the first half hour, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, was boring. So they were doing EVPs, which made no sense to me. It was right next to the Philadelphia airport, very noisy, and they're trying to do an EVP, and it's like, well, this is boring. Nothing is happening. Well, then somebody put on a flashlight. One of those twist flashlights, somebody put that out, and they were asking questions, and the flashlight was going on and off by command. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but it's not my flashlight. So I put out my twist flashlight, and it did the same things. I was like, oh, that's curious. There's something here. Then I felt somebody sitting next to me that I could not physically see. I just felt somebody sat next to me. Then I just felt this overwhelming sense of dread. It's like, well, that's really curious. What's going on here? So that was pretty much my experiences there. There's 3 events, the flashlights, feeling somebody sit next to me, and the sense of dread were pretty much the 3 experiences I had within that hour. And so after, the group break up, I went to a different area for just a few minutes. Nothing was going. Then I just left. I had a hotel in the area because I couldn't really drive very far at night. So I had a hotel nearby and did all that. But I was very curious. What did I experience that night? Obviously, there's something here. There's something to this. What did I experience? And to me, it just wasn't entertainment. Like most people go to the ghost hunts like, well, that was fun. That was entertaining. And they would let it go. To me, it was like, okay, there's something here. What did I experience? Then I started to read books I was like, okay, who speaks to dead people? Who deals with ghosts? So I started reading books from mediums and some other things, but it was very slow going. With MS, my vision was very poor. So I could read maybe 5, 6 pages before, I couldn't see and I would start getting a migraine. So it took some time for me to get through these books. But eventually I stumbled upon somebody who's talking about meditation, raising their vibration, if you will, to talk to these spirits. But they discussed in this little page and a half, benefits of meditation was inner peace. I'm like, oh, I need inner peace. Because at this point in my life, I was so stressed out, so overwhelmed, nothing was working out. I really needed inner peace. So the ghost hunt led me to meditation, to inner peace. So I began that night with a simple 5-minute practice. But this didn't provide any steps on how to meditate, which was perfect for me. Because at that time, I was a little bit OCD. I would adhere to all these rules. Am I sitting right? Am I holding my hands right? And all these rules to meditation. So simply, I thought this belief that meditation means you stop thinking. It's like, so thoughts would come. I'd be like, stop thinking. Thoughts would come. I'd be like, stop thinking. So this went on for about a week or so of me chasing thoughts with thoughts. Then it dawned on me. It's like, wait a second. That's a thought chasing a thought. I see my thoughts, so I'm aware of my thoughts, so I'm not my thoughts. If I'm not my thoughts, then who am I? And I sat with that question for a couple weeks, like, who am I in meditation? I just was sitting 5 minutes a day, just sitting with who am I? Then I just can't explain it out of nowhere. I just heard a voice say perfect spirit. I'm like, that's it. My spirit is perfect. It's simply the body and mind that are damaged. Then I simply had a knowing that all is well and all fear of my health was simply gone. And 16 months later, it was all gone. No more MS, bipolar, all this stuff. No more cane, no medicine, no doctors. Last time I saw my doctor, he was completely puzzled. And he tried to quantify what I did over the next 45 minutes, and he had no answers.
Really? So, going into this, before the ghost hunt, what exactly did your doctor say? Just you're going to be on medicine, you're going to see a slow decline in your health over time. There's really nothing much more you can do about it?
Right, exactly. So when I was initially diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, it was like, well, there's no cure. You're probably going to be on a relapsing remitting at first, which is, you get symptoms, you get better, you get symptoms, you get better, back and forth. But I was starting to progress into relapsing remitting, where it was a slow, steady decline. So that's where the ghost hunt sort of like stopped all that decline and stopped everything, and it just a reversed course. And that was my life. It was just because of the stats at that time. There's a really good chance that I would end up either in a nursing home or in a wheelchair because I had a really aggressive
At an
form
early
of
age too.
multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my mid 30s, I was diagnosed, and
Mhm.
MS is the number one cause of disability among young adults, is multiple sclerosis. So it's a really horrendous disease, but I take
Mhm.
no medicine for it today. I don't need a cane. There's nothing. It's not there. I don't have any symptoms.
And
And a lot of people have
you're not limited to anything at all.
no limitations. And a lot of people have a
Wow.
hard time accepting that because they're so ingrained that this is incurable. You're never going to get better. You're going to get worse. And But if you Google it, there are a few of us out there that
Yeah.
have beat MS, if you will.
Yeah. That's an amazing story. I mean, I kind of lived that journey. My mom had MS, and from when I was a sophomore in high school, I honestly I can't remember how old she was when she was diagnosed with it. But I mean, to see the just exactly what you were saying, that she'd be in remission for a little bit, then she would be almost back to normal, and then slow decline and everything. I mean, it's just amazing. And then, towards the end of her life, it was, just a really almost a steep decline. But you beat all that stuff, and that's pretty amazing that ghost hunting could do that. You think that whatever that entity was that was sitting next to you, do you think that spirit or that thing had something to do with it as well?
Now, what it did for me was I was always the type of person I had to see it to believe it. It
Right.
was my mindset. I had to see it to believe it. So what this ghost hunted for me is opened up me up to a new reality, a new possibility that I didn't
Mhm.
have before. It was always like, okay, things are real that I cannot see. So it just opened me up. I was like a quantum shift into a different reality. That there are these real experiences. It's not just a TV show that's scripted. There are
Right.
real things out there. And I've had some experiences beyond that now after I got rid of all this stuff.
And I think that stuff is real that they show in the TV shows. It might be over sensationalized to kind of show it a little bit more, but yeah, I believe that as well. That it is true, and I'm one that has to see it to believe it as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, you said you had some other experiences.
Yeah, so I have some other experiences after that because I opened up into a whole new reality. So my life is just completely different now. Everything's
Oh, I
shifted.
bet.
I mean, who else gets their health back? After being sick I was sick for 40 years. You know, and I'm not sick anymore.
Yeah.
So so it's just a big reality shift. So there's a few things that have happened in my life that are in the paranormal realm. Well, one time I was going to a few years after that healing, I was going to work. I was still working my day job. I was going my way to work, but there was this accident a really bad accident up ahead on the highway. So traffic was all backed up and things like that. Had to make my way around, and then later that night I was actually in a yoga class not too far from where the accident was. And I was
Mhm.
just sitting there, getting ready for yoga. So I just dropped into a meditation and I just connected to that space. And I saw this woman from the accident standing next to the side of the road. And I was just talking to her. I just
Mhm.
felt like I was having a conversation with her and just helping her move on that she was in this accident, she's no longer here, and just helping her
Mhm.
move forward. So I helped her with that. So that was a real interesting experience where I have experiences now moving people on to the other side. Another story that was kind of interesting, a girlfriend at the time, her dogs were wild, crazy, energetic dogs. But when I went to the basement, they would not go in the basement. The dogs refused to go in the basement. And like they're all these high energy dogs. Was like, what's going on? So I'm walking down the steps to the basement. It's like, oh, and this just to give you a little context. Her house was right down the street from Penhurst.
Okay. Yeah.
And so Penhurst is has this really hard history, but her house was right down the street from Penhurst. So I'm like, okay, so the dogs don't want to come downstairs, which is really strange. They're really playful, energetic dogs. They're big, energetic dogs, and they won't go down the stairs. Really odd. So I walk down and like, oh. there's a doctor hiding in the corner here. What's he doing here?
Wow. And, they say that young kids under the age of 6, since they're so pure and innocent and everything, they can sense spirits. Pets can sense that too. So I think that's exactly what you had. Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw this doctor there, but it took me a little while. It took me maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two to really be able to connect with him and contact with him. But I really had to have a discussion with him to get him to move on. He felt so much guilt and so much shame. It was really tying him down. So when I really talked to him and saying, well, you weren't an administrator, you're just doing your best, trying to be a doctor to help these patients. And so I don't know where you want to, Paul.
Are you there?
We'll see if Paul comes back, and I'll just hang out here to see if he does come back.
There we go.
Okay,
lost connection for some reason there.
All right, so let's continue with this story now. Yeah, so with this doctor, it took a little time to connect with him, but I had to have this conversation with him. He was really tethered to the earth from so much shame and guilt. So it was sort of giving like a talk that he did his best, that he was doing his very best, and I just felt him leave. So just to confirm it, I opened up the basement door. Dogs ran down. It was a brand new area for them to explore.
So you were able to communicate with this spirit.
Yeah. And have a conversation with him. And he was just really tethered to the earth because of so much guilt and shame. And that's what I see with some other spirits, that I've talked to, if you will, is that they're just locked in here because of that guilt and shame that's keeping them. But once they get clarity that, okay, I need to move on, they do move on. Like I was pretty much talking to that woman, moving her on, talking to this doctor, moving him on. And I can't explain it. It wasn't one of these things I researched how to do. It was just like, it just felt like natural, and just having this ability, because I stopped believing my mind as the truth. Like you're saying, the kids are so pure because they don't have all this mental interference. Right. And I get rid of all that mental interference. Now I just have this new reality that opened up to me. So it's interesting when I go into these old places, if you will, with some old history, and just to see what the energy is still hanging around.
That's incredible. And all this from a ghost hunt.
Yeah, it just shifted a whole new reality. Now I help people, get relief from chronic illness, because there usually is some kind of mental interference. I saw with the multiple sclerosis, the psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, they're autoimmune diseases. Basically, I was so stressed out, so overwhelmed with life, I was really creating a toxic soup within me. I was creating the environment for them to breed and replicate. So now I help people get rid of all that mental interference and just tap into who they really are.
And that's totally understandable. I mean, people get these diagnoses, and what can they do? I mean, they might not know that, almost like mind over matter, sort of, right?
Right. It's actually just remembering that we are ultimately spirit. So I don't see ghosts as separate entities anymore. They're just spirits without bodies. We're spirits in bodies. They're spirits without bodies. They're still here. They just don't have a body.
That's very interesting. Is there a way people can get in contact with you?
Well, yeah, if they search, they find me on Baba Sam Shelley. They can find me, on Facebook, YouTube. I create these daily videos on YouTube. I have my relief from chronic illness. And if there are people who are not dealing with a chronic illness, but they're dealing with stress, overwhelm, I help them go beyond this head trash that's creating all this stress, all this overwhelm, because that eventually that stress will catch up to them. That 90% of diseases are stress related, whether it's high blood pressure, a heart condition. It's all stress related. Mm-hmm. So we can get rid of that. And it just, my practice was very simple. And the practice I give people is very simple. It's just a couple minutes a day that we get these tips that we have to meditate for an hour a day. And it's like, no, you're probably not going to be able to meditate for an hour a day. It's just going to amplify the stories within you. Yeah. So I try to keep it very simple, very basic, and down to earth, that We can simplify things. We can get rid of all this mental interference and just open up a new reality. Because I can't explain, how my day to day goes. Things just happen that I just can't explain. Like objects will disappear and reappear and all sorts of craziness.
Okay, wait a minute. Go back to this. Let's talk about these objects appearing and disappearing.
Yeah, it's really bizarre here in this little. Well, New York City is known for its tiny apartments.
Right.
So, like we had a calendar, for the coming year. My wife lost a T-shirt, and some other things just disappeared. We knew exactly where we put them. They just disappeared. We look a day later, it's there. It's like
In the same
we're
spot that
here.
you left it.
Yeah, it just sort of they're just playing games. Just let's go hide some stuff and it'll come back.
That's crazy stuff.
It's normal life now, but I just realized it's a spirit having fun.
And see, I thought it was just me getting older.
No, it does happen, these things, and
Yeah.
it's a different reality, and my I can't explain my world anymore. Like another thing that's a little odd too for me is that nothing really appears solid to me anymore. Everything sort of appears, like a vibration or moving a little. It's not solid. It's just unusual now that I got my spirit radar up, if you will.
Wow. Well, that's pretty incredible. So no medication at all. Nothing for. I mean, did the doctors even say that there's even a slight chance that something could come back at you, or?
Well, that's what I was initially getting. I've been healthy now for over 10 years. For the first couple of years, people were saying, "Oh, you're in remission. It's going to come back," and all this stuff. Well, it's been over 10 years now, going on 12 years, and still no medication, still no MS, still no cane, no nothing, no limitations. I can be out in the 100-degree weather with nothing. Before 100-degree weather, anything above 70, the body would start to shut down. And when it would go above 90 degrees, I couldn't swallow. I could barely see. It was really the whole body shutting down. Now I'm out in the middle of the summer with nothing, and it's like it's not here.
This is an incredible story. I mean, I got nothing. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, living through the horrible disease that MS is, and then hearing your story. Hell, I wish you would have known my mom before.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part with people with MS. They hear my story and they walk away. Generally, they walk away. It's too good to be true. And this was the case when I released my first book. I had a traditional book contract. I had the PR. They had a really hard time getting me media coverage. They want to feel good stories, but they're like, your story is too good to be true. And I was mostly ignored by the media. And, I did get some appearances on TV and radio and stuff like that. But for most of it, I was, shunned. That's too unbelievable. It's too good to be true. And I see this in all these chronic illness groups. They're so identified with their labels that I have MS. I am bipolar. I need these medications. I'm fatigued. They really hampered, and that fatigue with MS is just horrendous. And I have no fatigue today. I'm fine. And they just have to realize that's where ghost hunting was so important to me. It shifted me into a different reality. That's the best thing I can explain from it. It shifted me into a new reality. And I think people that are chronically ill, they need that shift as well. Let's shift into a different reality. So maybe we need to start holding, ghost hunts for the incurable. To get them to shift into different realities. And like ghost hunts for the incurable. We're going to get you to shift into a different reality. See, something can exist beyond what your mind can accept as true. So when you see flashlights going on and off by themselves, or you feel somebody sitting next to you that you can't physically see, there's a really profound paranormal experiences. I'm sure not everyone has those experiences where you get that direct evidence of flashlights going on and off, or feeling somebody sitting next to you. And that was the one that really got me. The one sitting next to me, them feeling the emotions coming off that person. They were really profound experiences. And I'm sure I'd probably go to Casemates today, and there'd probably be a party now. I would probably just see all the spirits and have all these conversations.
Yeah, no kidding. You said you had a book. What's the name of your book?
Well, I have two books out there. My first book is out of print, I Don't Dwell. So I give that book away for free in my Beyond Head Trash group in Facebook, or people
Uh-huh.
message me, I'll just send them a copy. My second book is on Amazon, which is Break the Habit of Negative Thought Addiction. Basically taking your thoughts as true, that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, and that we're not deserving, life is hard, all those kind of stories that we have about life. And we need to really break free from that, because we are limitless spirit. That is ultimately who we are. And we're not just in this physical body. There's more to us than we can see. And
And
then
you said
listening,
you
like
can
you
get
see about that too, with the
right.
body. Just if people don't understand that you're not the body, you're not the mind. Look at old photographs of yourself from 5 years old to 10 years old to 20 to where you are today. You had all these bodies. Where did you go? No place. Spirit never changed.
Right. It's incredible. And you said you can get this book on Amazon, bookstores, or
No, just
just online.
Amazon. It's
Okay.
just online. I was thinking about redoing the first book, and since the publisher went out of business, the book went out of print. I was thinking about redoing that, since my knowledge has expanded, if you will. That I never had a spiritual teacher. I read spiritual books after I healed,
Right.
so that's why it was really simple for me, because it was just me. There's nobody adding rules to. That's why I said with my bipolar OCD brain, if you gave me rules at that time, I've been like, am I following the rules properly? Just it kept me locked in this brain. Am I doing this right?
This has been a very good, very inspirational talk. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I mean, this is incredible. It kind of opened my eyes to this stuff too. It's really cool. Thank you so much for taking the time,
Yeah.
Baba Sam.
Yeah, so I'm
It's
just waiting for you to lead out those ghost hunts now for the incurables. We'll get a whole bunch of people on these chronic support groups and saying, okay, you're locked in this reality. We're going to shift your reality. We're going to take it to the most active space around here, and
uh-huh.
see what we get something to spark up for you. Which just reminded me of another story where I can
Okay.
spark activity. I was in this paranormal meetup group, and this guy
Mhm.
says, well, I take pictures of orbs. I was like, oh, you want to pull some orbs in? He said, sure. So I got my meditation. I pulled in orbs. I said, hey,
Whoa!
spirits that are real here, let's give them some of the photograph. And he caught orb photographs at the meeting.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You could just call him down. Hey, come here.
Yeah, you can actually see this with James Van Prague, the medium James Van Prague. He has a lot of photographs of himself in cemeteries with all these orbs around him.
Uh-huh. I
So
was
it's
just
it's
watching a
not.
video with all kinds of orbs going off around it and everything, and the pictures that I've taken, I haven't noticed any orbs lately. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I've taken the orb photos too. Actually, it just reminded me of at this old B&B that I was in. I heard it was like the nanny, the innkeeper. It was at the door. This orb came across the room directly to me and went back and around, like it was greeting me, and it went away.
Uh-huh. Welcome to our house.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow,
it was
that's
really
incredible.
profound.
That's incredible. That's
All
incredible.
right, Paul, great talking to you.
All right, Baba Sam, I will have your information. I'll have your book, the link to your book, and anything else that you can think of to get in touch with you. It's a very interesting story and very interesting journey, and anybody can do this if you
Right,
just go.
that's the big thing. Anybody can do this. If I was sick
Yeah.
for nearly 40 years and I
Hmm.
simple 5-minute practice to reverse everything,
Hmm.
then it's not complicated. It's not difficult. And I've seen miracles. I've seen other people replicate.
You're a living miracle right there.
Yeah.
All right, Baba Sam, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk with us, and I hope everybody out there has learned something and is inspired by you. It's a very great story. So thank you so much for taking the time.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Great
All right.
talking to you.
And that's all the time we have for this episode. My thanks to Baba Sam Shelley for joining us today. What an incredible story he had to share. And if you would like to find out more on Baba Sam, I'll have some links in the show notes for you to follow and see more. Also, if you have any paranormal stories that you would like to share, or if you would like to be a guest on the show, please send me an email at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. That's paranormalamongus72 gmail.com. Thank you all for watching today. I appreciate you tuning us in. And until we see each other again, stay safe out there, everyone, and I will see you on the next episode of Paranormal Among Us.